we are light come into form, and the form that we generate is a crystalline structure, a liquid crystalline structure that formulates itself into a more rigid presentation. We are here in physical dimension through a series of compressions from the unified field all the way here into the physical dimension. We get here through a series of compressions, compressing, compressing, compressing all the way down to the physical reality. And each of those compressions generates a vibration. So what is the vibration of an individual? What, everyone who's listening right now, what is the vibrational tone? Welcome back to The Art of Awakening. Lovely podcast I love to share with you. I am your host, Dr. Sue Morter, and today we are joined with an extraordinary friend and individual. Her name is Denise Harrington, and Denise is a visionary communication expert, an entrepreneur, and an advocate for soulful self-expression in leadership. So, we're always talking about the soulful self on this podcast because the art of awakening is truly awakening to that version of ourselves. It's about melting through the layers of the personality that have become protective or guarded or performing oriented and just dropping down into the true self and actually having the life experience that we came here to have. And so Denise is definitely doing this work on many levels in the world. She is the founder of DMH Consulting Group and the creator of Speaking with Impact. For over 30 years, she's guided leaders and athletes, and especially women, toward mastering authentic and impactful communication. She designs transformational programs and sees her mission as a calling, creating a space for women to redefine leadership by integrating authenticity, energy, and balance into everything they do. So welcome, Denise, to the show. It's wonderful to have you.
Hey, so good to be here. I mean, there's a mutual love fest that goes on here for a myriad of reasons of knowing each other personally and knowing each other professionally and just hanging out together and making life wonderful for all of
Yes,
ourselves.
yes. Just to let everyone know, Denise has been on some of our Journey Awake journeys to sacred sites around the world with me together. And we've also been long-term friends in terms of being in a spiritual community, understanding the perspective of reality that is based in higher consciousness. And she's part of a pack of friends that I have in the world in my personal life, which are also deeply infused into the energy codes and Morter Institute coursework as well. So Denise is plugged into where we are coming from in so much of our conversation. So I thought it would be wonderful to share her perspectives in the workplace as well, and just out in life, developing leadership in all aspects of your life. I thought it'd be great to have her on the show just to help fill you with lots of ideas about your own power and authenticity. So,
Ideas, power, and authenticity. The interesting thing about being out in the workplace, I love the idea that there's no separation in anything, really. But for so many years, I used to cloak what I knew on a deeper level when I went into the corporate world. I still did the work. I still helped people free themselves and communicate more effectively from a spiritual and soulful self, but they just didn't know I was doing it. They
well,
just didn't have that feeling.
right, and I think this is really important because a lot of times I'm teaching courses and we get into this deep, rich dialogue and speak a
Uh-huh.
language that is just second to none. And then people go out into the world and they're like, they try to say some of those same words, and without the context, people might not respond well. So I really feel that it's also helpful for us to just kind of be in the exploration today of how to translate those soulful truths into regular speak. In what ways did you find that you were, slipping it inside and cloaking it into other dialogue, and how might that show up as helpful in everyone's daily life, whether it's in their workplace or with the relatives or with the friends and neighbors that haven't really gotten into this stream of consciousness that we are swimming in yet. So feel free to share what you know in those arenas as well.
Of
So
course, of course, of course. One of the things, well, I'm going to start out deep. I'm just going to go there first because I'm with you, Dr. Sue. So I
yeah,
have
that
permission.
works.
But this is true
Or
about where I started my business, and one of the things that I put on my wall when I started my business, communications company, was in the beginning was the word,
Mhm.
okay? Communication was there in the beginning, and the word manifested reality. Now, I added the reality piece, but why is that so important? It's because of what you just said. How do I take not only what I'm hearing in these workshops, how do I take myself into the world where people understand where I'm coming from, the context of where I've been? You're not going anywhere. And I'm sure you would agree with that. You're not taking anything into the world but except yourself. So when
Mhm.
it's interesting about that is that there is no separation. So when you think about those two things, it's like, well, wait a minute. When I go to work, and even you said you had to cloak yourself. Well, that was when I really thought that there was a separation between the soul of who I am and the expression of who I am, which is pretty much the same thing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'm really interested in the soulful self being what presents into the outer layer of life. And in whatever way I can help people feel comfortable bringing that forward, I'm interested in. I don't want us to have a different spiritual life than we do a professional life. We just need to walk in a way that speaks the language that others can relate to, that is grounded and integrated and relevant to the task at hand. It doesn't mean we ever leave our soulful self behind. It means we bring it forward and allow it to be translated into relevant dialogue and conversations and engaging with people in ways that are going to make a difference for
Yeah,
everyone
for
involved.
everyone.
And
And here's the interesting piece to it. As I was preparing for this inside myself, I one of the things that came up is I just finished a class for a company last couple of days and teaching them the skill sets of how to take on presence, how to bring it out. And presenters are not born, but they are definitely shaped and developed. For
yeah.
instance, some of the things that you teach in yoga are the things that I teach in communication class.
Mhm.
You know, the ready position. I even say in the class, I said, all right, let's get in our ready position and just breathe and anchor yourself and root yourself down. It's a lot like that tree pose in yoga. And I'm telling you this is your expertise, but you know that just rooting yourself like that, learning the yoga poses help you to establish who you are. And we're
Mm.
talking about the true self, the soulful self. It helps you establish who you are. The same thing is true about the communication skills. They help you to channel that energy that is flowing from you all the time, but more so now that you're learning in these energy codes, how to let that energy out. I would say that's the difference, really. If
Mhm.
from cloaking and uncloaking is that with this group of people, you're already letting the energy out. So now, when you take on these specific communication skills or presentation skills, they help you to develop and to anchor and to channel energy. That's what happens. You're
Mhm.
channeling energy. That's why I love that whole thing about in the beginning was the word. The energy was there in the beginning in you and in everything. But what happens is that it manifests differently in each of us from that one core piece of energy. Now, I'm starting to feel like I'm a little bit like Dr. Sue, right?
So so in your work, when you're speaking with people about finding
Mhm.
their voice, the word that comes through them, which, my mind goes to quantum science right away. We are here in physical dimension through a series of compressions from the unified field all the way here into the physical dimension. We get here through a series of compressions, compressing, compressing, compressing all the way down to the physical reality. And each of those compressions generates a vibration, and that vibrational tone is the word that was being referenced in those statements, in thousands of years ago as they were coming forward. In the beginning is the vibration. So what is the vibration of an individual? What, everyone who's listening right now, what is the vibrational tone that is happening inside of your body right now? What is that word? That is what you're emanating. That's what you're broadcasting. So Denise, when we take that into consideration and we say we're going to help someone find their voice, I see that as aligning their mind to that vibration that is deeply at the core of their being, that frequency that they are representing. And how are you helping people connect with that vibration so that they can authentically reveal themselves without distortion, or without misperception, or without being misunderstood, if you will?
It's exactly what I just said in terms of the skill sets. There, when you sit down to learn to play a piano, you have a beautiful piano in your living room area. When you learn to sit down to play something like that, you have to learn the fundamentals. When you learn to sit down to reveal yourself, you have to learn the fundamentals of what it means to move this energy through your body, out of your body, because it literally, one of the things I love about your teaching is this whole idea that there's this emanating that's going on outside of the body, because we don't think about it like that. I mean, sometimes when I'm doing the toward field, it's like, wow, that's outside of my body, but it's being generated from within that. And the same thing is true about communication. That's why I was so excited to do this with you, because it's bringing that concept that, I can just get up and use my voice. I mean, I hear that all the time. But the foundation of using that voice is finding out you. What is your vibratory level? I bring something specific to the table. Dr. Sue brings something specific to the table, but the skill sets, the way to get that out are the same. You have someone playing a piano and they're playing jazz. Another person's playing the piano and they're playing classical piano, but they're playing the same notes. The same notes in terms of a C flat is a C flat, a B flat's a B flat, a C sharp is a C sharp. You have to learn those skill sets, and I think that that's one of the things that you are always trying to inspire in people to do the yoga, do these different ways of being and different ways of toning, even in yoga, because
Mhm.
those things help to ground that energy that's specific to the tone of you. So it's finding you, but then using the skill sets or the energy, or finding ways to let the energy channel itself to come out through you. Um, I want to let you say something, but I want to share with you. I do my things in the morning that Dr. Shu loves for us to do. Not all of them, but there are a few that I really love. One of the things that I do after I finish my meditations is I have a crystal in the room window. And I'm lucky I have an east facing window. And this prism light just comes pouring into the room. And my aha was, that's me. That's me. That prism light, the way it fractures and comes in, there's like maybe 4 or 5 little prism lights on the wall, but each one is its own thing, but they're all coming from the light.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yes, indeed. That's what we are doing. We are light come into form, and the form that we generate is a crystalline structure, a liquid crystalline structure that formulates itself into a more rigid presentation in terms of bone and body tissue and that kind of thing. But it is the same. We are refracting that light as it comes into this dimension. So we are emanating the light. We are each emanating the light in our own individual ways, but it's the same light.
So what if we could take that light and through specific skill sets like posture, movement, gestures, facial expression, eye communication, where you let someone into the soul, you let someone see you because you're giving them good eye communication, you're connecting with them, your vocal variety, All of those things create what's called, when you start to utilize them properly with the energy that's flowing in your body, what begins to happen is you begin to reveal to yourself what I call a signature style in business, but from a spiritual perspective, it's a signature expression. There's a signature expression that begins to come out. And that expression, once you learn to utilize the tools, now that not all tools are right for everyone. I mean, they're all there to be used, but the bottom line is that some of us get caught in, I'm kind of doing this little thing. We get caught. So, we might and ah, or we might not look at people, or we might fidget. Those are ways that your energy is trying to come through for a true expression. So, what if you were fidgeting with your hands as opposed to gesturing with your hands? What if I taught you how to gesture with your hands to let that energy out instead of letting it be caught inside and banging up against the wall? Then what
Mm.
would begin to happen is that flow that we talk about, that soulful self, or what I'm calling the signature expression, has a way to come through without being disrupted. You see, we're saying the same thing, right?
Mm.
It's pretty cool. So holding that energy in keeps you from expressing who you are. And once you tap into who you really are and you learn to, in different formats, bring out that information, whether you're talking to your customer, or you're talking to your your friends, or your family, letting that energy come through self-expression is where we need to be. This is what the world needs in a big, humongous way, because people are not seeing themselves shining in that way, and in a way that they can actually talk about who they are and what they believe in. It's very interesting how this is happening.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the big things that I'm really trying to get people to do is to realize that dropping into their body is one of the most empowering things that they will ever accomplish. It's actually why they can. We are made of the divine, and our journey is about embodiment. And it's about coming all the way into the body so that we can express outward into this physical world freely. And so, as people are learning to do that, um, what are some of the things that you would suggest that they engage with? Some examples of ways that, for instance, they may more easily express with confidence, or they may more easily be able to be aware when they're getting up into their head, or they're strategizing, or they're trying too hard, or these kinds of things. I think it would be really valuable to get into some specific conversation about, what are some of the things that you would suggest to people to ensure that they're staying present in their body, being able to feel what their authentic expression in any given moment would be, and then how to roll that out.
Mhm. There's a certain way and a certain thing that's why I brought up the whole example about the prism. Each of us have something that we're bringing to the planet right now, or to life, however you want to say it. So each of us has a self-expression. It's an individualized piece of a greater whole. The best way to anchor that and to bring it forward, and we'll talk about the content piece in a second, because that's a whole different thing. But the best way to bring that energy forward is by learning to anchor it in your body. You see, we really are on the same track together. It's about anchoring it in your body and letting the energy not only be anchored in your body, but to flow out of your body, to let it come out as a way of self expression. And that's why I said this whole thing about maybe you're gesturing, instead of holding the energy in, you're letting the energy come out through your gestures. You're allowing yourself to gesture. Maybe you are letting yourself smile more. If you feel within yourself, because I know a lot of times you said, in some of the classes that we've been in with you, is like, what does it feel like? Well, when you start to feel this self that Dr. Sue is unfolding in you, when you start to feel that, how would you express it? What would you say about it? Who are you? What would you say about that person? The person that you're starting to reveal within yourself. And whatever that is that you would say is your piece of the prism. It's your prism. Write down. I was sitting in a meeting yesterday where we were talking about quantum, And the person asks, "Well, who are you?" That's a very profound question. Who are you? And if you drop down into it, and we do a lot of dropping down into things when
Yeah.
we're together. If you drop down into that, there's something in there that wants to say something, "I'm this." Yes, we are divine beings, yes, but what aspect of the divine being? Well, Denise likes to talk. That's my thing. That's what I came here to do, was to talk. I majored in voice in college, so I was gonna be on stage somehow. So
Mm.
I got to the stage, but I'm now helping other people get to the stage. And so if you look at your patterns in your life, the ones that have helped you manifest yourself, there are certain things that you've been doing that are part of who you are. And the more you can ground in that through the communication skills, learning to bring presence out, presentation, presence, they're the same thing. The way you bring that presence to the forefront is feeling that energy flow through your body, but sending out through eye communication and gestures and movement and self-expression in your voice, and making sure that you utilize skills that help you do it, because it doesn't just happen. You have to have the skill sets to help you, just like learning to play the piano.
Mhm. So can you give us some examples of I'm trying to listen to with the listener's ear to I'm hearing I need a skill set. How do I get that skill set?
Okay, well, take a class. You could take a class on communication skills or presentation skills.
Mhm.
It's just like, again, learning how to play the piano. Where I think things get better is if you have someone who can coach you. If they are have a great eye in helping people learn that not only the communication skills, but to begin to utilize them based on them. And one of the things that I tell people in the classes that I teach, and I did that the other day, was, I'm not really here to make you somebody you're not. I'm here to help you to discover who you are and to begin to speak from that space. And you can't do it without the skill sets. You can't do it without the ready position where you're anchoring yourself, letting the energy flow, looking at people, learning how to get rid of those non-words, the things that get in the way, and also finding a way to figure out what it is that you bring to the table and begin to speak on it. A lot of us as speakers have, well, I wouldn't say that we ever fell into it, but there's something that kind of like happened for us. Do you know what I mean? Where you just kind of knew this is the direction, and then life kind of flowed you that way. I've been in this like field of friends who are speakers, and it just kind of happened in a way, but not really, because of my college experience and because I also taught meditation for years, so I was out there. But I think one of the things that I was so excited to speak to you about is that you looked out in the audience of your group, one of the gateways, and you said, "You all have gotten so clear about who you are. I think any of you could get up and speak to people just like I am." And it's true. You can. You just need a little bit of guidance around what skills are going to help to remove all the obstacles and the distractions that get in the way when we're self expressing. And one of the biggest things that gets in the way is anxiety and nervousness and the mind telling us that we can't do it. And so you have to anchor yourself in skill sets to help you free up the mind, utilize the energy, and then your personal self, your style will come through.
Mm.
I call it the signature expression.
And so when one is in touch with the truth of what they're feeling and wanting to convey, and they begin to find the courage to, whether it's a presentation or it's just a conversation they're trying to learn to have or be able to have the wherewithal to engage, that conversation with a partner that they're dreading, but it's something they really need to express and refine within the relationship, or a conversation with a coworker that is a challenged topic, or a conversation with their boss that they really want to ask for something or shift some attention in a different direction or what have you. Let's say someone's in touch with that. Um, what are some things that you could offer them to allow them to initiate that, allow them to feel guided and supported in having those conversations or presenting themselves in some way?
Presenting, I love it. The main thing about presenting is understanding your value. I mean, we're kind of still talking about the same thing of knowing yourself, your self-expression. But then everybody has nervousness. I mean, because if you don't, I call it just unchanneled energy. That's what it is. Nervousness, unchanneled energy. If you don't have it, you're not you're not alive. So you're going on your way in, you're going to talk to someone, your husband, your wife, or friend, or a colleague, or someone at work. You anchor yourself first. Get in that ready position, even seated. The feet are hip width apart. You sit down on your chair and you breathe. You keep your energy open. You keep your hands open. Don't wring your hands and all those things. Just keep them open. And then use eye communication. Look at the person. Just look at them because that alone, when you open up that door and let people in and you are connected to them, that settles the person on the other side of the fence too. And then if you can understand what value you bring to the table, then what you do is you have three key things that you say. Always know three key things that you're trying to get across. And you stay with those things and let them unfold. And I truly believe, I mean, I know this sounds a little bit like the Ooga Booga stuff, but I truly believe that once you get in that ready position and you're seated on the edge of the chair, because I'm not in the back of my chair, I'm on the edge of my chair. My energy is forward and I'm anchored, my feet are anchored to the floor in that way. And then when I come with my three key things, those three key things are anchored in the value of who I believe I am. And I believe I am the kind of person that will unleash this in others, that I have the ability to bring this out in others. But each of us has something. So if you're going in to have a conversation with someone in your office space, or you're going in to talk to Dr. Sue and you want to convince her about something, or you want to share some idea, anchor yourself into that ready position, that yoga position that allows that energy to flow. And once that happens, the soulful self will bring itself up. It will, because you've just taken the energy and removed all the distractions. So it's interesting that's why I say it's still the same. We're talking about the same thing because what we're doing now is we're taking this soulful self that we've been cultivating and we're allowing it to come out in order to express itself and say, this is who I am. This is the value of what I bring to the table. But because I'm anchored in my skill sets, I can do that without being nervous or worry and free the mind to be the servant to your conversation. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that I like to encourage people to do in this same moment that we're discussing is if they're nervous, that they be transparent and say, "I'm a little uncomfortable. I'm not really sure where this conversation is going to go, but here's what I hope for today." Or what, just because if we can speak to the truth of what's going on, it establishes a truth between you and the people or person that you're speaking with. If you're excited to share the information, you say that you're excited to share the information. If
Sure.
if there's a little trepidation, you share there's a little trepidation here. You be transparent, and in that transparency comes this continuum of flow into your body, into your life, into your words, into your vibrational frequency that allows the other people on the other side to open in complete trust. If someone says that they're nervous, it speaks to the nervousness and it quells it. It's like loving the judger or loving the part of you that's upset, or the things that some of the skills that I teach people. If you are allowing yourself to operate in full transparency, it it establishes trust because it's the truth. And so So if I have three things that I want to share, I might say there are three things I want to share with you today, and I don't know how it's going to unfold, but there are three things I know I want to share today. And just by saying I'm not sure how it's going to unfold, but I'm just going to start, it allows for something real instead of a battle plan to go in and say, okay, here's my three things. I'm going to get this and make this happen. That force is something that 20 years ago was a very hot commodity. And in today's world, it's not what we need. What we need right now is transparency and presence and a loving presence, a nurturing presence. And that comes from us knowing that, look, we're all divine. And this is just a matter of me speaking soul to soul instead of personality to personality. If I get into my personality, your personality is going to respond to me. If I get into myself on a soulful level, your soulful self is going to respond to me. Now we're having a different conversation, right? Now it's something totally different that is presenting here in between us. And that's what the quantum world is really bringing into this linear world that we built, and our generations past have built. We're now having to fill in the gaps with something a little bit more meaningful and authentic. And so I love what you're saying about, position yourself in an open fashion, be in your body, open, look at the person. And I would say, let's visualize having, full disclosure here. What's wrong with the truth,
And
right?
it's
Let's bring
interesting
that
that you
into
would
the
bring that up because the 3 are always anchored by 2 other things. Well, 2 other things is where they're positioned, and
Mhm.
that is you always wanna share your feelings. You always wanna share your feelings. "I'm excited to be here today," or, you know, "I'm concerned about what I'm about to say, but I wanna share it anyway." And I would love to, or I'm thrilled to be here today. That feeling is a part of the 3. It's not
Mhm.
one of the 3, but it's a part of the 3 because it does, like you're saying, it lays the foundation. I'm a little trepidatious or I'm a little nervous about this, but I know what I'm bringing to the table is something that will be, I think I'd love to share with you. And if you do that with a lot of eye communication and a good smile and sometimes even a little bit of concern on your face, what's authentically going on with you, you'll make waves. Good waves,
Mhm.
like waves, wavelengths, you know?
Yes. Awesome.
So
So
good.
you also speak about storytelling and the role of storytelling when it comes to this is more of a presentation thing than it is a communication, um, facet that we're speaking about now. Um, what do you have to say about telling the story inside of communication from a presentation standpoint?
People wanna know why you're talking to them and what it has to do with them. They really do. If you can find some kind of story to share with people, especially if it comes from their perspective or your perspective somehow touches their perspective, that's what storytelling does. There are
Mm,
some people that are just natural storytellers. I had 2 in the class that I did this past 2 days, and they were both storytellers, but just didn't realize they were storytellers because they always started out with some kind of story. We did this, and we went down the street, and that thing happened, and you do know because I see you using stories all the time. When I did this with my mother, I was under the bed, which I'm still amazed by that one. I was in the closet. I had to
yeah.
break for a second to say why I'm amazed by that. So I just saw Dr. Sue recently, and she was cooking something, and she was way in the closet. And it was really one of the first times I've ever seen her be so focused and just silent outside of meditation, but just kind of in herself. And I went, "Oh, that's the person who is the introvert who is in the closet. That's the person." But that person has learned or maybe been coaxed or even inspired to come out because as soon as breakfast was served, she was into this whole other way of being. That's the beauty of learning the communication skills and learning how to express yourself, whether it's through story or whether it's just even sometimes it's telling the facts. But stories do help to And I love that story about you being in the closet because those stories help people see themselves in what you have to say. And then that way we open up. I used a story yesterday to close out the the class, and it started evolving because I started my company from a presentation, a big presentation, and I was, what, 7 months pregnant at the time. I was living in Portland, Oregon, little girl from Washington, D.C., living in Portland, Oregon, figure that piece out, and I was at this place called the Mac Club, which was a business club, and I probably was one of, a few Black people that were in that audience. And there were supposed to be 65 people in that audience, and the Oregonian put this news into the newspaper, and so 145 people showed up. So here I am, 145 people doing this speech. And at the end of the speech, I got 3 really important clients from telling my stories, from being there, and people seeing me, because a lot about presence is people seeing you, allowing your energy to come through, making mistakes when you speak, telling people how you feel, expressing stories when you speak, but utilizing those skills, because oftentimes I am really nervous, but I'm anchoring myself in that ready position and I'm gesturing and I'm looking at people because that's what helps to bring my energy in. Literally, eye communication will help you bring that energy in because it puts blinders on your mind. It allows you to focus on one person at a time and talk to them. And then it doesn't become a presentation, it becomes a conversation. But anyway, the end of this talk yesterday, I decided I'd close out the end of the day with going back to that story. I was 7 months pregnant. One of the clients I got at that time was Nike, and I was asked to do a training at Nike as a result of that. It's like that was my first big Nike contract. And I was there at that point, 9 months pregnant, because I was not gonna turn down the business. So I'm 9 months pregnant, and 6 days later, my daughter Nia was born. So she was truly a Nike tyke. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I saw my daughter do the same thing that I did as the commencement speaker of her alma mater, George Mason University. She was the speaker. And so I saw myself that day at 36 years old and her that day at 33 years old, full circle, bringing the legacy forward in how to speak. And my ending of that story was, what Speaking with Impact does is we take great people and we turn them into great speakers. And that was the story. So these things that I'm talking about can happen naturally, yes, but it always is 10 times better if you have someone who can guide you, like you, Dr. Sue, guiding us on finding ourselves, like me, guiding people to find their voices and to say the things that are true about them and the things around them and make a difference in the world, because we really, really need it. We need it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is true regardless of, many of our listeners probably aren't presentation givers. They're not in the industry of giving speeches and that kind of thing. I don't even consider myself as someone who gives speeches. I, I share what I know, that kind of thing. But I know that our audience is very oriented around authenticity and transparency and true connection, and being able to present that out into the world is something of tremendous value, I think, inside of our culture, in that we are we're finding our deep truth, we're integrating in terms of healing and developing and a soulful identity and our purpose on the planet and what it is that we're here to be and reveal and share. And so the next step in that is feeling confident and being able to manage all of the energies that happen when we start trying to step into a difficult conversation with someone, or to resolve something, or to ask for something, or to propose a project or an idea in some facet of their lives. And so I feel like the best thing we can possibly do for our audience today is share with them how to manage the energies to begin, how to start, how to allow that flow to continue through them and out into the world, um, rather than developing a whole program. I have a facilitator training program that I'd love to have you come and speak to, because they are gathered for the purpose of, you gotta win over this audience of a workshop and get them inspired about themselves and really wanting to understand what it is that we're sharing through the energy codes, conversations, etc. And and in this moment, I'd just love for you to share the one thing that you would love for people um, to really anchor for themselves from our conversation today, that they can do or pay attention to or honor, that will allow them to be able to bring their great gifts out into the world
Mhm.
more easily.
See it
What do you
not
have?
as a presentation. That would be
Yeah.
my first thing. Don't see it as a presentation. It's a conversation. You're sharing with people who you are. So you're doing all the work now to discover who you are with Dr. Sue. That's anchored. Now,
Mm.
tell your story is coming out and sharing the things that you know about yourself. Each of us, I know I am, and I'm sure many people are, we're starting to find the value, our value. What is our signature expression? That's starting, all the beautiful work we're doing with you is to help to develop that. And now, whatever platform you choose, it doesn't have to be a big 145 people. That doesn't have to happen. And believe me, I wasn't planning for that to happen. That's how the universe ends up using us when we allow ourselves to communicate who we are. But you might decide that, 3 people in the room is about enough I can handle, and I'm happy with that. Nothing wrong with that. It still will take the same skill sets. Or you might decide that you wanna be with, 1,000 people. Some part of me now would love to speak to tens of thousands of people. I know I have that capability. But once you figure out within yourself how to express yourself and what you need to express, just anchor yourself in the skill sets. Use yoga as a way of anchoring that energy, and then get out there and talk to people. One eye communication at a time, and tell them the things that excite you about your life and the things you're going through. And the next thing you know, you'll have your own, not only signature expression, you'll have your signature story. No matter how small, no matter how big, every story that we're learning to unfold within ourselves with you, Dr. Sue, is an important story to tell. And there are people, the more that they hear your energy, because that's how I attracted Nike that day. It wasn't anything necessarily I said, it was that what they felt from me. And
Mm.
that's what you're developing when you're doing this wonderful work with Dr. Sue. You're developing that energy that will attract people so that you can tell them your story and they can hear your story and see themselves in it. And that's how we all grow. That's how we all
Mm.
grow. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, Denise, how can people find you? Where can they learn more about you?
Well, I'm out there. www. Speakingwithimpact.com is where you can go for the work that I do with helping people get ready for presentations. I also have a podcast called Women Express. So go to my podcast, listen to Dr. Sue was on it before, and listen to what we're talking about. I believe women's voices are more critical than ever, and that we oftentimes have been stymied on saying who we are and what we believe in. And again, giving full credit to you, Dr. Sue, on helping us discover who we are. Those trips to the different journeys we've been on, those are about self-discovery. And once you figure out that how powerful women are throughout history, I think there's a story that every woman that knows you can tell about themselves and how they connect to life. It's very important. Learn to use your voice. It's not just a done, you don't just get up and do it. You can perfect it, and you can be coached to use it properly.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Denise, thank you so much for sharing your energy and your brilliance with us today. It's been uplifting and empowering, and I know that it's bridging some worlds right now, this conversation. It's bridging the opportunity that we have to really develop some leadership in our lives. when we're presenting into the world in whatever form, it's about leading and creating the life that we truly can vision for our humanity. And thank you for being a part
You're
of
welcome.
that,
You're more
developing
than
that skill
welcome.
set for everyone today.
You're more than welcome. And the next time, friends, that you're out there and you're standing in the corner and you know you have something to say because your soul is saying, say it, say it, say it, look at someone and say it.
Yes, let it out, let it flow. Indeed. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So, listeners, today, if our conversation has resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and leave a review and share this episode by all means. Thank you again for listening in to the Art of Awakening podcast, and blessings to you all. Thank you again, Denise, for being with us. Blessings to you all. All right. Bye bye for now. Namaste.